Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, the only podcast about all things waterfowl. From hunting insights to science-based discussions about ducks, geese, and issues affecting waterfowl and wetlands conservation in North America, we bring the resource to you. The DU Podcast with your host, Chris Jennings.
Joining me today is a very special guest. I'm excited to have her on the show, Kayle Browning. Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
And Kayle is a U.S. Olympic shooting team member who's getting ready to head off to Tokyo here very soon. But I wanted to get Kayle on the show, one, to introduce her to all of you, our listeners, but also give her an opportunity to talk about, one, the fact that she's a big duck hunter, and two, the fact that she's going to be representing the United States in Tokyo and to give our audience someone to root for, in Tokyo this year. I think it's awesome. But Kayle, can you give everyone a little heads up on who you are, where you're from, and how you got to become an Olympic shooter?
Yeah, so I'm Kayle Browning. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Wooster, Arkansas, which is about 45 minutes north of Little Rock. It's a really small town. I got started in shooting from my dad. He was a competitive sporting clay shooter, and I pretty much grew up on the shooting range, in and out of competitions with him. So how I got started is he would fill up water balloons or Coke cans when I was little and let me take a BB gun and shoot them and, watch the water come out. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So he always made it really fun for me. So I just kind of followed in his footsteps with competitive shooting, and also as well as hunting. I mean, he would always take me on bird hunts or duck hunts, and just always made the experience really fun for me. So that kind of lit the fire for me at a really young age. And then when I was 14, I found out that shooting was an Olympic sport, which I had never heard of before. I was like, what, shooting's in the Olympics? So I was like, obviously I have to go that route. Like, that's a no-brainer. So I made the switch over to international trap, and it's kind of just history from there. I made my first World Cup team when I was 15. My first overseas trip was to Munich, Germany, and I experienced, jet lag and different food and the different cultures, and it was a really neat experience. And that's what kind of got me hooked on international trap, because you can travel the world with it. And that's exactly what I've done. I went on to set national records, World Cup records, and just recently made the 2020/2021 Olympic team.
No, that's fantastic. And, we've kind of talked offline about how you got started and even into duck hunting and stuff. But when was that moment where your competitive shooting, where you're just like, all right, now I'm going to take it to the next level?
I think that moment came for me probably when I found out that shooting was in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd already been competitive shooting for, about 5 or 6 years before that in sporting clays, but it was kind of just fun. I mean, I was good. I would win, my class or juniors or sub juniors. But I didn't really have that realization that, like, hey, you could probably make a career out of this, until I was about 15 or 16 and I started traveling.
Yeah. And what's the difference there when you ramping up, like, say, even for World Cup, but then it's even more so, when you're, attempting to make the Olympic team, like, what's that routine like? Like, what's the training, kind of explain to our audience how that all comes together.
Yeah, it was a wake up call for me, because previously I would just shoot for fun, and I would practice for fun. It had always been a really fun experience. And then when I made my first World Cup team, I quickly realized that I was competing against, no matter the age, I was competing against the best people in the world. And I had to take that, for what it was and as serious as it was. So at a young age, I gave up basketball camps. I was really active in school in sports. So I would give up, summer camps or proms and spend the weekends training, waking up at 7 or 8, which is a lot for a 15-year-old. They want to sleep until 10. I was waking up early and shooting and in training. And I also had a job when I was 15 to help my parents pay for, targets and ammo and training trips and shoots and stuff like that. So I kind of learned that work ethic and that dedication from a really young age. And I'm really thankful for that now, because it was always my choice to do that. My parents just always supported me in that. And it's paid off. I mean, I've now have the title of an Olympian, that nobody can ever take that away from me. And I know that it was well earned.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, that's a title that, so few people in the world can actually say that they were an Olympian, and that's, congratulations for even being able to earn that title. I mean, it's just so exciting. And before we get into the duck hunting questions, because I'm going to ask those, kind of talk about the team. Maybe share with us, who all's on the team, how you guys compete as a team and individually. I mean, shooting's kind of like golf, where it is a team, but you're an individual athlete out there. Kind of explain how that works and kind of introduce us to the whole team.
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't know is there is only an Olympic team the year of the Olympics. So when you're on the Olympic team, you're only on the Olympic team for, obviously the year of the Olympics. And in between that time, there's, in between the 3 years in between the Olympics, we have what's called a national team and a World Cup team. And you have to make that team every year. You have to make it annually. So just because, you're on a traveling team one year doesn't mean that you're going to make it next year. We have trials and team trials, and you have to place top 3 to make those teams. And kind of just short story of how the Olympics are going to work in the future. You have to make those traveling teams to be able to be eligible to make an Olympic team. So it's really kind of like a 3-year long, almost 4-year long process of making an Olympic team. So it's a lot of dedication, but the team as a whole gets it. Like, everybody kind of gets what you're going through. It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. So everybody is generally pretty supportive that's on the team. But like you said, it's an individual sport. So, you have to compete with your team, but you're also competing against your team, which kind of contradicts itself. But as a whole, everybody's really supportive and always makes the trips fun. I mean, you're traveling to all these different countries. So we have a pretty good team bond.
Yeah. And the event that you're competing in is trap. Kind of explain, I guess, is it considered bunker trap, or, is it just, you just say trap?
We say bunker trap. Bunker's kind of the slang term for it. It's international bunker trap. Basically, the difference in that and American trap, which is what most people are familiar with, is international trap is a 60-foot underground bunker that hosts 15 machines underneath it. And each station, 1 through 5, has 3 set machines per station. So there's a designated left, right, and straightaway. And those are all kind of random through the game. So you're going to get 2 lefts, 2 rights, and 1 straightaway off of each station. And angles are a lot harder and the speeds are a lot faster. So the angles can go all the way from 45 degrees left to 45 degrees right and up to 3 meters high. And they're set to a distance. So the speeds are going to vary on those. So whereas like ATA trap, you have a rotating machine under just one bunker, just one machine. You do get 2 shots in this game, which you definitely need it, because on average, the targets are going like 68 to 70 miles an hour versus ATA, where they're about 38 to 40 miles an hour. So it's a really fast game.
Yeah. And the targets themselves, they're a little bit smaller than normal, like what someone would normally just like pick up at Bass Pro Shops or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit. They're denser. They have to be a little bit thicker, and their profile is not as tall as like a standard target. Just so they can be thrown the angles and the speeds that they need to be thrown and not break when they're thrown that fast.
What's about your average shot in there, like distance wise? You're talking 50, 60 yards, traveling at 50, 70 mile an hour. I mean, I'm just trying to give our audience an idea of these shots that you're actually making.
Yeah. So typically a first shot is between 35 yards. And then the second shot is about 48 to 50 yards. And that's just an average. I mean, some are way faster, some are way slower, but just on average, that first shot goes off pretty quick.
Yeah, I could imagine. And you said you grew up shooting sporting clays, and that's really, and I bring it back to this because I'm much more familiar with sporting clays. And I think, there's so many people, our audience does shoot sporting clays probably, a little bit more than something as high end as what you're doing here. But, when you make that transition from sporting clays to, this international trap, what's that transition like? Are you walking out there and you're like, oh man, there's no way I'm ever going to hit one of these?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a shock the first time I saw the bunker. because one, I like to talk. And in sporting clays, it was just kind of, you could talk to your squad, you could talk to whoever. You'd be like, hey, I missed that. Where was I? You could give advice. When you go to bunker trap, it's totally quiet. You have to be silent. There's no talking on the line. Everything's voice activated. So whenever you call pull or whenever you say something, it's going to launch the target. So that got me in trouble a little bit, but making the switch from sporting clays over to bunker, it's a totally different technique and foundation than what I learned in sporting clays. Sporting clays is, more hunted simulated. You have a lot different target presentation. It's just a different mechanics to break the target. And making that switch over to international trap, I had to relearn how to shoot, basically just totally new mechanics, which was a hard process.
Oh yeah. I mean, you probably have a process down and then all of a sudden you're just completely switching. And I know we've talked about kind of the fundamentals of shotgunning from a duck hunting perspective, but I'm sure that once you get into what you're doing, it's so much more complex. Let's just run through an average day. You wake up, you're training, we're 3 weeks out from the Olympics. Mm-hmm. What's an average day of practice look like for you? Like how many rounds, how many targets are you shooting? What's that average day look like?
So right now I'm kind of in a routine of where I wake up about 6 a.m. I have a morning workout and then I come in here and I do all my computer work for the day. And then about 10 o'clock, I'll head out to the range and I'm out there from 10 to probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that can consist of shooting the entire time that I'm out there, which I can go through some rounds. It is no problem for me to go through 2 cases a day of ammo. Or I can be working on just mental stuff, like want to just freshly walk out there and try to shoot a round for score, just like, I'm putting myself into those competition modes where, this is the round that matters. You have to do what you know how to do at this moment in time. So it just depends where I'm at in training. But right now I'm kind of in between the middle game and still training some techniques because we still have about 3 weeks until we leave. So I really am trying to peak at the right time. Like when I get over there, I want to be able to be mentally strong, physically strong, have my mechanics on point, and just be able to walk out and kind of turn that switch on and do what I know how to do. And then after I'm done training, I normally have a second workout for the day. And then I'll come back and I'll take my training notes. And if I recorded any video or anything from that day, I'll kind of watch over the videos and take notes and figure out if I need to adjust anything for the next day. Yeah.
And you mentioned shooting a couple cases or more per day.
Mm-hmm.
You have a sponsorship from Federal, correct? I mean,
yes.
You were just on the Federal podcast and I caught that. And how does that work? I mean, is that once you get to a certain level, as far as competing on this worldwide circuit, companies like Federal will say, hey, we'll supply you with ammo. Kind of explain that process, because I think our audience will think that that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we used to have team sponsors for Team USA. So if you made the team, then the team had a ammo sponsor, and it's still that way. We still have ammo sponsors, but Federal has picked me up individually from Team USA. So they're an awesome sponsor. I mean, anything that I need, or if I'm, we're the whole world's kind of on an ammo shortage right now, but they have went above and beyond to make sure that I have plenty of ammo to train with for the games. So I've been with them for a couple of years now and love the ammo. I mean, it's their 24 gram international load is my favorite ammo to shoot. I even shoot it dove hunting. I mean, it's just an awesome load.
Yeah, it'd probably be a bad day to be a dove when you're out there in the field, I would imagine.
Yeah, during dove season, you still have to train, and every now and then one will kind of cross through my shot pattern when I'm up there training. So
an accidental.
Yeah, accidental. You can just fly right into my pattern.
We talked a little bit offline about, the guns that you use, and, kind of explain what your competition gun is like.
I shoot a Krieghoff, and it is a K80 12 gauge. I've shot the same gun. It's a little bit different now. I switched my barrels out, but I've shot a Krieghoff since I was 15. They were my very first sponsor. They've been with me the longest, or I've been with them the longest. And it's a German-made gun, and it is totally set up for trap. I mean, if my competition gun, if you saw my gun, you'd be like, you can only shoot trap with that. And they're 100% right. It's totally custom made, totally set up for trap. But I shoot 32-inch barrels, which is a little bit of a stretch for a girl. But I like the weight, and I like how the 32-inch barrels point better. I mean, I just think they're a little bit more accurate, and they balance the gun out a little bit better for how I have my gun set up. So yeah, it's in my opinion, there's a ton of good gun companies out there, but in my opinion, I think Krieghoff is hands like second to none, hands down. Just durability, quality, customer service, everything about them.
That's awesome. Now, here's a question about the guns. You're going to fly to Tokyo, to the Olympics. Do they treat the shooting teams a little bit different as far as travel and things like that? I mean, are they shipping all your guns over at one time? You're not just showing up at the airport with your gun like a normal, like a normal shooter, or do you?
Yeah, we're just showing up. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I've only flown through Tokyo on a like a layover. So going to Tokyo will be a little bit different experience. I've never flown into Japan with a gun, but I assume it's just like, everywhere else that we fly into, we have to have permits from that country. And then we just, like I fly out of Little Rock. So we'll just check it in there, and they check your documents and make sure that you have all the right papers. And then they just check it in like a bag. I've knock on wood, but I've never had them lose my gun going to a shoot. I've had them lose it a couple of times coming back home. So as long as it's not going to the shoot, I'll be okay. And now they have where you can go on your app and like scan your baggage, so you can kind of keep up, like, did it make it on the plane? Where is it at? So it's a little bit more comforting.
How long are you going to be there in Tokyo before your event starts?
So we are going to be there. Let's see. We fly out on July 19th. The opening ceremony is on the 23rd. And then I believe our training starts on the 25th or 26th. And then we actually start competing on the 28th, I believe. Okay. Our schedule has changed a couple times. So the last I heard that was accurate, but it could have changed since then. Because we're trying to figure out, with COVID, they've got us like jumping through hoops to get any kind of training and be out on the range out there. So we're trying to get some extra training before we shoot. So that's the schedule last I heard.
Yeah. Is your family able to come? I mean, I've kind of seen back and forth where they're not allowing fans, but there's some fans and media, and I haven't heard a real definite on any of that.
Oh, no, they're not allowed to come, which is terrible.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, no, it's my family, especially my dad, has been my coach since I was born. And you finally reach like the pinnacle of your career, and then they're like, sorry, you can't go. So it's been a hard thing to accept, but no, they're not letting any spectators at all. So if you're in Japan, then you can go to the different events, but they're not allowing any foreign spectators.
Wow, that's got to be rough for your dad. I could only imagine, but I'm sure he'll be glued to whatever video or TV or whatever they're kicking out for that.
Yeah, so at our lodge, Cypress Creek Shooting Lodge, I think they're going to have like a watch party here.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. And you mentioned this a little bit, and it's something that always stuck out to me because it's probably one of my favorite things about the Summer Olympics, the Olympic ceremony, like the opening ceremony. Is that something that you're really looking forward to? Because I know for me, like I would be like, oh, I always watch that. And I'm like, man, those people look like they're having so much fun. And you see the Team USA come out and you're all dressed alike. It's so cool. Is that something that you're really looking forward to?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's like, you get to, as a kid, I would always watch that Summer and Winter Olympics, and you watch the opening ceremonies, and like Team USA is one of the last ones to come out. And when they come out, it's just like the whole stadium is just chanting Team USA. And I can't really imagine what it's going to be like. I've only seen it on TV, but I'm super excited to have that experience.
And I'm just going to assume they're not going to let you just carry your gun over your shoulder in the ceremony, correct?
Oh, no. They stay locked up at the gun range.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. And kind of on the same line of questioning with the ceremony, I'm sure you're getting some pretty cool Team USA, the same gear that everybody else is getting. You're getting some pretty cool swag with that, aren't you?
Oh yeah. They've sent us multiple emails saying just bring what you're like, your makeup and your bath stuff that you need. Like you won't need any clothes because apparently we're getting like 3 or 4 suitcases full of just clothes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So they'll have us all decked out.
Other than the ceremony and the whole, experience, I mean, it's just going to be awesome. But what is one thing that you're really looking forward to as far as, even just representing the U.S. at the Olympics?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is the challenge for myself. If you just sit here and think like, wow, you're about to compete in the Olympics, like that can kind of be a little bit nerve wracking. So I'm really excited to get over there and just have the whole experience and represent my country and just kind of take it for what it is and try not to put too much pressure on myself and just do the best that I can do and hope that leads to a medal. But just really, I'm really looking forward to competing at that level. I mean, that is the pinnacle of your career. That's the highest level you can get to. So I'm really just looking forward to doing the best that I can do and representing my country while I'm over there.
That's fantastic. Now, I'm just curious. This is something like when you're going to this event, like you said, this is the highest level of competition. Do you know the other people from the other country? Are you like, oh, that's such and such from Italy and that's such and such from India? Do you know these people based on kind of the World Cup circuit that you've shot before?
Yeah. So I know I've competed against everybody that's going. We see them at World Cups every year. So yeah, and a lot of them are really good friends too. So it'll be really fun.
Very cool. As far as, we've talked, this Olympics is going to be so awesome, but I kind of wanted to give our audience, a little insight to your duck hunting background as well. And we talked about this before we got on this call, but kind of explain to everyone, how you started in duck hunting and kind of your experiences.
So I started hunting before I started competition shooting. And I can give thanks to my dad because he is an avid hunter. And we actually have some flooded cypress that I basically live on the land that we hunt. And I grew up hunting flooded timber. And when I didn't know that there was any other way to duck hunt until, I got into my teenage years and somebody asked me if I wanted to go hunt ducks in a field. And I was like, what? And so it was just like I grew up like so schooled on duck hunting because it's like flooded timber. So, I started when I was really young. And I think what attracted me most to duck hunting was the waking up early and going out there and all the prep work that you have to do for duck hunting, because duck hunting is pretty challenging. They can come in or listen to your calls and really be working good on your calls, or they can just fly right by you and you've like gotten up early and got your dogs out and set it all up. And then you're like, well, okay. But I think what really attracts me to duck hunting is the full experience that I've had with my dad. It's like kind of sentimental. It's something that we've done every year, all season long, since I can remember. I mean, since I was old enough to go. And now I've gotten my own dogs and got them all trained up. So it's really fun for me to watch the dogs work and kind of watch it click for the dogs, like why they're out there and why they've been training for so long, and it kind of clicks for them. And it's just the whole experience of duck hunting is, it's not necessarily the harvest that attracts it to me. It's just the whole experience, getting to go with, your friends and your family and learning how to duck call and learning a language that the duck speaks and being able to like call the ducks in. And then, of course, you make good shots on the ducks and then you can watch your dogs work. It's just the whole experience.
Yeah. The whole process of duck hunting is something that is very attractive. We talk about it a lot on this show, and the whole, like you said, it's not necessarily always about shooting the ducks, but sometimes it's the people that are there and where you're at. And, I asked this question to a lot of our guests, and some of them you're probably very familiar with, but I think this would be a very appropriate question for you. What would be the perfect day duck hunting? Kind of explain that whole, from, start to finish. What would be your perfect day duck hunting?
So my perfect day would be waking up, I get some Black Rifle coffee, and my dad comes out here. We load up the dogs. we head down to our camp, and we actually have some friends that we duck hunt with down in Stuttgart too. That's down in Bull Spriggs. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's very prestigious duck hunting camp. So we go there, get there, we all drink coffee and kind of talk for a little bit. And then we get on the boat, we head out to our duck hole, and right at daylight, there's just ducks like swarming around everywhere, and you can watch the dogs like seeing the ducks, and he's all excited and hopefully minding me and just everybody being able to limit out, but everybody being able to like get their time into work the ducks and get their time in to watch the dogs work, and then afterwards heading back and getting some breakfast and then later that night cooking up the ducks that we got that morning. That's probably, a lot of people don't like to eat ducks, but we have a really good recipe for them, and it's probably one of my favorite wild things to eat.
All right. Well, now I have to ask, what is the recipe? Is it a family secret you can't share?
Yeah. It's secret. It's like top notch. If you want this recipe, you got to come to our shooting lodge, because we do it. We cook them during duck season.
Nice. That's perfect. That is, and honestly, that sounds like a perfect day. And while I didn't grow up in Arkansas hunting, I do now quite a bit, but that's a very familiar scenario for, I'm sure, a lot of people who grew up hunting in Arkansas, that flooded timber, boating in, the whole experience there. I'm sure that it's definitely, it's very Arkansas-like. We'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, Arkansas is like, probably the duck capital of the world. We have so many rice fields and so many farmlands down towards Stuttgart and down towards the south, that, you can just have an incredible day of duck hunting, and incredible may mean, that's different to different people. That meaning's different to different people. And incredible for me is, getting to spend time with my friends and family while we're all doing something that we love doing, which is duck hunting. And it makes it even cooler whenever you get to limit out and you just have like a strap full of green heads, and your dogs work good that day, and he's excited. And yeah, it's, the whole experience is just awesome.
And you don't shoot your competition gun for, for when you're going duck hunting, but what kind of gun are you using there? I'm just curious. I
use a Beretta A400, and that thing, I am the queen of falling in the water, whether it be like tripping over a tree root, or like down at our place, we have a bunch of beaver runs. So I'm like notorious for hitting a beaver run while I'm trying to set everything up. So that gun took a swim quite often, and it's still going. So
no, as far as, go back to the Olympics, as far as going to the events, doing all that, competing, is there any other event that you're like, oh man, I can't wait to meet that person, or meet, get an opportunity to see them compete, or even, I know you're not gonna be able to go to the event, but, just be around those other Olympic athletes. Is there any one person that sticks out?
I am really wanting to see some of the gymnasts, like Simone Biles and all of them, and then some of the swimmers, like Missy Franklin, and the girl that, I forget her name, but she just like dominated. It may be Missy Franklin, but she just dominated in swimming. But like some of those iconic people in those sports, we're all staying in the Olympic Village, so I'm like be on the hunt for them.
Yeah. How does the Olympic Village work? Is it all just like U.S., is over here, other countries are over here? I'm just curious how it's even set up.
Yeah. So it's like a little city inside of like this big wall. And each country has their own building, like almost apartment complex type thing. So each country will be segregated to that. And there's like gyms there, there's pools there, there's cafeterias there. So everybody kind of has their own place that they stay, but then all of the countries can go to the cafeteria or to the gym. So and everybody's been quarantined and had to follow all the rules. So it should be okay in the village to kind of like mingle around and meet other people. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's just, even when you're talking about that, and I'm just kind of thinking, you're going to be staying in the same, housing complex with like LeBron James. And I don't even know if LeBron is going, but yeah, the NBA guys are going to be there too. So you'll probably be sitting down having lunch with them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, just casually have breakfast with LeBron, My goal is to get somebody famous like that and have them come out here to Cypress Creek Shooting Lodge and teach them how to shoot. I'm just going to I'm gonna work my marketing there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see why, some of those athletes wouldn't want to, make that crossover. I mean, competitive shooting in the manner in which you do it is so intense that I'm sure some of these athletes who, compete at very intense levels would be very interested in making that crossover and kind of seeing hand-eye coordination and, the way that you have to, really teach yourself to be patient, things like that. I bet you could do that.
I'm going to try to. I mean, I just think is going to be the coolest experience waking up. Like these apartment complexes are huge, and everybody brings an American flag and we hang it over our balconies. So like when you look up into the village, you see like, oh, that's Team USA, because there's just American flags all hanging over the balconies of those apartment complexes. And then you can look across the street and say like, oh, there's Italy, or there's Guatemala or India or China. So I think that'd be really cool to just be able to walk through the Olympic Village and just see everybody's country's flags hanging up there. I mean, and know that they've put in the same dedication and same work that you have to be there, and everybody has the same goal.
Yeah, that is going to be an awesome sight, being able to look up and see those flags. That's pretty cool. And again, for our audience listening, what we've got now is we've got a duck hunter to root for in Tokyo. So, the Ducks Unlimited audience, obviously, will be behind you. I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to be watching the ceremony now, like, oh yeah, there she is right there. Now I know someone who's walking through. I've actually had a conversation. So I know on behalf of all of us, good luck. And I think it's going to be a fantastic experience. One question before I let you go, and this is something that we spend a lot of time doing, and I'm sure you're well aware of, but introducing younger kids into shooting. What would you tell someone who is thinking about either introducing their kid into competitive shooting, or even just maybe someone interested in jumping into it?
Yeah. I would say, the best thing to do is to find somebody that, you trust, or somebody that's at a little bit higher level, like a coach or an athlete that's kind of been down that road, and just reach out to them and say, hey, this is, my first time shooting. I would really love any advice that you could give me, or where do I start? And the one piece of advice that I would say is you're never too old or I mean, I guess you can kind of be too young, but I started when I was 8 years old. So you're never too old to pick up a gun and learn how to use it. You look at these different sports like football or gymnastics, and they pretty much have an age cutoff. I mean, they peak it when they're like 16 or 17, and their career's done. And also, not anybody can just jump on a balance beam and flip around. So, but most people can pick up a gun, and when you're in the right hands, somebody can show you the proper way to hit a target, and it becomes really fun. So, it's not as intimidating as people might think it would be. Just the best advice is just to reach out to somebody and just ask for help, or go to your local gun club and just start doing it. The biggest thing is just to go out there and do it and experience it. And then when you're like, hey, I really like this, and just reach out to somebody for coaching.
And then just go and make the Olympic team, right?
Yeah. Then just casually make your Olympic team.
Casually make the Olympic team. No, Kayle, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you joining us today. I just want to remind all of our listeners, they can find more information, about Kayle and Team USA on, at USA Olympic Shooting Team website. Check that out. And you can go to KayleBrowning.com, correct?
KayleBrowning.com. Or if, like I said, if you're looking for instruction, we do a lot of instruction here. We just opened up a brand new training facility out here in Arkansas. It's called Cypress Creek Shooting Lodge. So you can go to cypresscreekshooting.com and you can find all of the information of how to get started, what disciplines we offer here, instruction that we offer, or if you're just looking for like a local club, like if you're not from Arkansas, if you're looking for local clubs around your area, you can get that information there as well.
And Kayle, once again, I'll tell you, good luck. I know myself, all of us around here, we're going to be rooting for you. Hope our audience tunes in, checks it out. Because now, if we're going to win, we're going to send a duck hunter up there to do it. And I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank my guest, Kayle Browning, U.S. Olympic shooting team member, for joining us today and kind of walking us through her upcoming experience in Tokyo. I'd like to thank our producer, Clay Baird, for putting the show together and getting it out to you. And I'd like to thank you, our audience, for listening and supporting wetlands conservation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the DU Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit www.ducks.org/DU Podcast for resources based on today's topics, as well as access to more episodes. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks.